You're listening to the official Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
Kraken tomorrow at 8:30 on the audio home of the Wild. FM 100.3 KFXN, Minneapolis, St. Paul, The Fan. It's Wild Weekly on The Fan.
Pass in front, Kaprizov shoots and scores.
Now here to talk about the Minnesota Wild and the NHL. From the Wild, Kevin Fallness. And from The Fan, Brandon Molesky.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to KFAN Wild Weekly. I am Brandon Molesky along with Kevin Fallness from the Minnesota Wild, the radio network. Kevin, what have we had? 5 straight games at home. You got games 6 and 7 coming up later this week. Are the XL Energy Center employees sick of you yet?
You know, that's not very nice, first of all, and yes, they're very sick of me. It's incredible. This has been the longest homestand that I can remember in recent history, and they're just every other day. But it's been fun. It's been fun to see the team in person.
Then after the 7's up, you get 1 on the road, and then back for 3 more at home next week. So basically 3 weeks of being at XL Energy Center every other day. At least the Wild... I thought a much-needed win last night, Kevin, after that disappointing showing Saturday against St. Louis. You had the overtime loss against the Rangers. They've been kind of leaking oil here a little bit in the month of March, obviously, with all the injuries they've had, but a very much-needed win against the Kings last night.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other hard part about when they are home and the pressure starts to mount, and, you know, they had come into that game having lost 4 of their last 5, and like you said, the vast majority of those are on home ice, and then they get their doors blown off 5-1 at home on a Saturday night against a divisional opponent that was below them in the standings. The pressure was really starting to ratchet up, and I think there was a players-only meeting after that loss to the Blues, and I don't think it was a very pleasant meeting, and they got some things off their chest, and they come into Monday taking on a Kings team that was very good. You know, had won 5 in a row, hadn't given up goals in almost 2.5 games, and the Wild got it done. It was an impressive win, and man, you can't put enough significance on the importance of that victory.
Well, and clearly, I mean, the Wild have been struggling to score here for quite some time, right? And they've kind of changed their style of play. They're basically trying to win 2-1 games. Which is what they basically did, you know, if you include the empty netter to make it 3-1 last night. And I guess, you know, it's pretty deflating in these games when you are, man, if we can, we're trying to scrap out 2 goals, and you give up that early goal against the Kings when the LA scores on the power play there. You know, it can be a little deflating for a team to have to give up that first goal when they're struggling as much offensively as they are right now. But for them to respond, that great Hartman deflection, and then obviously the Zuccarello power play goal with just 4.5 minutes remaining. It's a pretty gutty win, especially also without Marcus Foligno last night as well.
Yeah, I mean, the injuries continue to pile up. The 3 guys that have been missing in action, and then you add Foligno to the mix right before faceoff. We find out he's going to miss it with an upper body injury, miss his first game of the season. That's a tough blow. How would you like to be the goaltender in this situation where you're doing very well? I mean, I looked at Gustafson's numbers before last night, and in the last 10 games, he was like 5-4-1, yet his goals against average was under 2.5. His save percentage was right around 90%. I mean, he's doing everything he can to keep the puck out of his net, but he makes one mistake, and, you know, you give up one goal any night, and this team is fighting for its life. Last night, they didn't give up. That was nice because even though they were down 1 rip after 1 period, against a team, that doesn't give up a whole heck of a lot, they still figured out a way to get it done, so that was nice.
I think Gus is the story right now. I think he's been absolutely terrific. I think he's their best player consistently on a night-in, night-out basis. There's a reason they've played him now, 4 games in a row. They've realized, hey, we need to get some wins at this point of the season. We got to go with the guy who's playing extremely well. And he had a save last night. You know, a lot of times with goalies, it's the sliding across the crease, glove save that gets all the attention. He had a save last night where it was a shot from the point. I forget which Kings forward that was in the net front area, redirected it and it went off the ice and then up, and he somehow got a blocker on it, right? And it's not like a super sexy save. That was a big time save. I mean, to be able to react to that thing as quickly as he did off a deflection there, and that thing had eyes for the net. And like I said, it probably doesn't get credit as most people don't view it as a phenomenal save, but that's a big time save. And, you know, to your point, they need him right now. They are, like I said earlier, they're trying to win these games 2-1. They're putting so much pressure on him, and he is giving them a chance every single night in all of these games to win that style of hockey. So if you're going to play that style, you got to have good goaltending to do it, and he is giving them everything they need right now.
28 saves total. He's got his 26th win of the season. That said, the number one star of the game might have been this year's version of Martin Skula, the lightning rod of all Wild fans everywhere. At times, Johnny Merrill. He made the save of the night, getting his stick in the crease when, Gustafson's doing everything he can. He made 1, 2, and then 3 saves. I think it was LaFerriere, and the puck comes into the low slot in the blue paint, and it was destined for the back of the net. John Merrill at the last second gets the elbow of the elbow of his stick on that puck, swats it away, and after the game he's all humble. I'm just trying to do my job, trying to help out Gus, but might have been the save of the night.
You had to make the Martin Skula comparison, huh? You had to do that to him?
Well, I just mean because, through the vast majority of the season, they're like, why this guy? What is he doing? Well, you know what? He's actually played some pretty decent hockey for this team, and they've needed him. Would I like to see David Jiricek at some point? Absolutely. But John Merrill is showing that, he's a valuable asset on that blue line.
Merrill came into the season basically like he's your 7th defenseman, right?
Yeah,
right. If you have some injuries, that's going to be his role. I think he understood his role. He's ended up playing 57 games this year. And to your point, the Wild basically gave up an entire draft to acquire David Jiricek, and he's sitting in the press box right now. And, Brodin's been out. And, Merrill has played. There's been times this year, right, where I'm not super excited about the way he's been playing. But overall, I agree with you. He's been pretty solid. And that play last night, I thought, was the exact example. Wes Walz, I was watching the television broadcast last night. Sorry about that, Kevin.
Yep.
And Wes Walz, was the analyst, and he immediately brought up right out of the gate on Walz's watch, this team needs to play with more desperation. And I agree with him. I thought that's what was so great prior to the St. Louis game, right? When even the overtime loss against New York, clearly when they played Colorado and beat them 2-1 in a shootout, you can just see the desperation in the team, Kevin, in blocking shots and throwing the body around and making that extra play and getting your stick on things. And I thought that was missing Saturday night. And frankly, the way this lineup is currently constructed with Kaprizov out and Eriksson Ek out and Brodin out and then last night with Foligno out, they have to play desperate hockey to win games, Kevin. They're not going to outskill anybody at this moment. And I thought that Merrill, saving a goal, that was a good example of desperate hockey and being focused in that spot.
Yeah, it was good. And again, it was such a difference from the game on Saturday night against the Blues where, you could tell John Hines was disappointed. He's not the guy that's going to throw his team under the bus, but whether he says it or not, you can read his face. And he was not happy with what he saw against the Blues. And I think that was a proud John Hines in the postgame show after the Kings' victory. And you're right, that's the way they have to play. And that gave them a little bit more breathing room, injected some life. There's only 14 games left in the regular season. Yeah. For them to slip out of the top 8 at this point, I think it would be a bigger travesty than what the Twins went through last year, where they were in such great position, and then they fell out of the basement with just a terrible finish to the regular season. The Wild would have to go on a tailspin much like that to fall out of the top 8 right now and have Vancouver or Calgary catch them and push them out of the wild card spot, or a St. Louis. I just don't see that happening. If they went 500 the rest of the way, they'd coast into the playoffs. So, and again, they've got all this home ice advantage and all that other good stuff. But I tell you, that was just what they needed. That was what the doctor ordered last night. A win against a very good team and doing it from a lineup that helped top to bottom. John Merrill save a good example.
I don't know what it is about the difference between 6 points and 8 points, Kevin, but just looking in the standings, it seems like a massive difference. And I get it. I get it's only 2 points, but before last night, they dropped down to just 6 points ahead of Vancouver and St. Louis, and you start thinking to yourself, oh boy. I mean, once you start getting under 6, and it starts getting to 4 or 5, now you're in fingernail biting time, and every game is going to be extremely stressful, and you're still going to have some of that. But to your point, 14 games to go, 2 teams that are 8 points behind you, right? Vancouver and St. Louis. Now, Vancouver does have a game in hand, but both the Canucks and Blues 8 points back. Calgary, Utah are all 10 points back. You need 2 teams to jump you. It's not just one team jumping you at this point. You need 2 teams to jump you. And to me, that would mean an epic collapse from the Wild, right? Like Vancouver and St. You're not going to have two teams just go on like a 12-2 run here and just jump up a Wild team that would just happen to be playing 500. Like, it's going to be, over a 14-game stretch, you are losing 10 of the 14. And frankly, with the way the roster is constructed, with how hard it is to score goals, that's possible. But in a league in which you get a point just for getting to overtime, it's going to take a pretty epic collapse from the Wild to not get into the playoffs. That being said, does that really matter? Not only do they need to make the playoffs, but they need to at least have some sort of confidence going into the playoffs. Like, it's great to make the playoffs, but if they're playing the way they have been going and with the guys they have in the lineup, it's not going to matter much in the first round anyway.
No, the good news is Jonas Brodin looks like he's on the horizon. He has been skating with the team here recently, and it looks like he's knocking on the door on the return. But on the flip side of that, Kaprizov I haven't seen him. I have no idea what the status is of him. Jules Eriksson, and now you throw Marcus Foligno on top of the list as well. Those are big-ass question marks for this team going into the final 14 games of the regular season as they make their way towards the postseason. What's the status of these guys? At this point, we don't know.
Well, head coach John Hines did say of Kaprizov and Eriksson yesterday that they are progressing. I have no idea what that means. Doesn't give me any indication at all.
They haven't been on the ice. I've been at the practices. They've been here every day, and they haven't been on the ice. That's the progression. You get on the ice, skate by yourself, join the team in a practice, and then join game situations. They haven't reached step one yet.
Well, and Russo said of Kaprizov, I don't know, like a week or two ago, that it wouldn't even be till late March until he even gets on the ice. So by the time he gets on the ice and then gets back into game shape, he might only have 2-3 games at the end of the season to get ready for the playoffs. So that's another concern. Even if he's healthy, what kind of Kirill Kaprizov are you getting? That's segment 1 of KFAN Wild Weekly. We'll be back with segment number 2 next, right here on The Fan.
Down to the goal line, Boldy. Matt Boldy, cross-ice, Zuccarello, left circle. Fire the shot! He scores! Matt Zuccarello! With 4:38 to go, the Wild have a 2-1 lead.
Matt Zuccarello with the goal. Joe Donnell, Tom Reed on the call last night right here on The Fan on the Wild Radio Network. Wild win. They beat the LA Kings by a score of 3-1 at XL Energy Center. Brandon Molesky along with Kevin Fallness. This is KFAN Wild Weekly. And, Kevin, Matt Zuccarello typically doesn't show a ton of emotion. I mean, you always see him smiling and giggling with Kirill Kaprizov on the bench. But, man, he got into it with a little bit of a celebration after last night. You can tell not only was it his 100th goal in a Wild uniform, but for a team that was struggling to score offensively, you could tell how much that meant to him.
Well, you know what? He's the guy, and I said this in the postgame show last night, that a lot of times when this team does lay an egg on center ice, he's the guy that goes in front of the firing squad and answers the questions in the postgame comments. He was there on Saturday night, and he had some pretty poignant comments, too, saying that the team got embarrassed. They are better than this. To lose 5-1 to St. Louis on home ice, it's unacceptable, and they have to be better. Well, he went ahead and he led the charge last night, and I think the emotions were on his face after that puck found its way to the back of the net, the eventual game winner, and like you said, 100th goal as a member of the Minnesota Wild. It meant a lot. I mean, there's guys that have to step up in the absence of some of the big names, and it's well documented who's missing. There's a lot of firepower missing from this lineup, especially with Kirill Kaprizov, his best buddy. When they're in the lineup, they're quote-unquote peanut butter and jelly. He's doing his part to step up as best possible. Huge goal last night to put him on top for the first time, and they end up skating into the win. Yeah, and Boldy got the assist on that on the power play. And, Boldy's going through a little bit of a slump himself, Kevin. He's gone 11 games now without a goal scored. Just 4 points here in, the last 9-ish games. And, let's face it, when a guy like Kaprizov goes out, you're going to look at your other stars. And let's face it, they also don't have a ton of stars, at least from a scoring standpoint on this team. And people are you're going to look to Matt Boldy, and I feel bad for him because when I watch him play, Kevin, it's not like he's playing bad. Like, he's getting chances, he's creating offense. It's just one of those things where he's just a little snake bitten right now. Hopefully, at least those two connecting there on the power play will get those two going here moving forward because they obviously need it. I was hoping that shootout goal the other night, and I think we talked about it last week. I was hoping that was what would ignite him. Just get some success, enjoy some offensive joy, and maybe that would be something that could push him over the edge. And at this point, I agree with you. I don't think he's playing bad. He's not getting the results, and he's putting up those goose eggs, and it's got to be frustrating for him as a guy who's a proven goal scorer on every level, including the National Hockey League, for him not to be able to step up and deliver results with the absence of Kirill Kaprizov. It has to be killing him. I think Rossi's in the same boat. Rossi's a guy that has been delivering, has been fantastic all season long, except for this last stretch. And it's got to be just eating these guys alive. And to be able to get some success last night, maybe this will take some of the weight off their shoulders, and who knows what they look like against the Kraken tomorrow night.
Yeah, Rossi has also got 11 games without a goal. So, two guys on your top line right now have not scored in the last 11 games.
I mean, go down the list. Tom has a list of guys that
nobody's scoring.
Right now.
Yeah.
Brock Faber's one of them. Brock Faber is a wonderfully offensive gifted defenseman, and I don't know if the Four Nations has caught up to him. Maybe that's part of the reason why Boldy's struggling for offense as well. But the amount of ice time that maybe it's taking a toll on Brock Faber, because he's such a great hockey player, such a great defenseman, and so offensively gifted. And right now, he, along with those other two we're naming in particular, are not having joy right now, not finding results.
Well, I think the thing with Faber is they're defending more. They're in their zone. They're in their zone a lot more and playing on that side of the ice. And so one. Clearly, the more time you're playing in your own zone compared to the offensive zone, that's going to reduce your scoring. That's obvious, but it's also, it wears you down, right? Defensemen can conserve energy on offense, right? You can stand on the blue line, you pick and choose your spots when to jump in the play, but you can rest at times just sitting on the blue line. Defensively, you're typically playing physical, playing in the corners in front of your net, moving around, stops and starts, and that can kind of tire you out. And as to your point as well, he's just coming off the Four Nations faceoff, and Maybe that's with Boldy as well, because he's the guy that played in the Four Nations face-off. I do want to say, though, as tough as it's been 5-on-5 for this team to produce any offense recently, I feel like their special teams, which has typically been their weak point, has been pretty good lately. I know they gave up the one last night on that Kempe one-timer, which I don't know how you stop that one on that pass from Fiala. But overall, the penalty kill has been better, and they got a couple power play goals last night that they've at least been producing in those areas.
I can't believe the penalty kill, the turnaround that's been with that. As you mentioned, that was a phenomenal power play goal from Kempe to start the scoring last night for LA. But beyond that, the penalty kill has been phenomenal. And it's a real small sample size. It's been like 3 or 4 games where it's been spectacular. But it was so atrocious prior to that it really has shown, that they are capable of killing penalties. So that's fantastic. That's huge. I mean, if you want to do anything in the postseason, first of all, you got to get everyone healthy, but you also got to have special teams, and they're showing that they can get it done. So that's huge, and especially for a team that's struggling so hard to produce offense, if your penalty kill would continue to be as atrocious as it was, man, that would be a real tough pill to swallow. Another guy that I wanted to bring up, though, was Jared Spurgeon. For guys that are struggling to find offense, he's not one of them. 15 points in the last 20 games, pair of assists last night.
How's that possible with how many goals they're scoring?
I know it. But he's been delivering offense ever since he got back in the lineup. He's been outstanding. And last night's goal, deflection off of Ryan Hartman. That one was all him. Great to see Jared Spurgeon continuing to deliver.
You know, a guy who I kind of like on this team is Vinny Hinostroza.
Yep.
I mean, every game he's bringing speed, he's bringing energy. He's got, he's had moments where even though he's not the biggest guy in the world, he's one of the smallest guys. He's not afraid to get to the net and get to those areas and screen and deflect. Not afraid to take contact. Like, he just seems to be bringing energy every single game. And I get it. Like, there's a certain role you probably want him in, but I can foresee, like, having a fully healthy lineup, and if he's on your fourth line, man, I'm excited about having him on our fourth line.
Yeah, he just skated in his 400th game in the National Hockey League. It was Saturday night against the Blues. 401 was last night, and I agree with you. He's been an energy driver, a guy that, and that's the biggest part about him, and that's why he had success in those first handful of games here. He was a guy in front of the net creating traffic in front of the goaltender, and pucks were bouncing off him. He was getting some fancy goals as well. and he had 4 goals like in his first, 6, 7, 8 games. He's fallen a little bit dry here lately, along with the rest of the team, but it's been fun to watch him skate. I've really enjoyed watching him since they grabbed him off of waivers.
All right, it's too early probably to talk about playoffs, but I'm going to bring it up. It's always the question of who do you want to play in the playoffs, right? Right now, the Wild are the first wild card spot team. They are 8 points clear of Vancouver. That's the second wild card spot team. Of course, I still think the way the NHL does the playoffs, it's a little confusing, trying to figure out who the wild card teams are going to play for like your casual fans. But most likely the Wild would end up facing, well, right now they're set up to play against the Vegas Golden Knights. But you still have Winnipeg as a possibility, Dallas or Colorado if they could somehow emerge and sneak up into one of those spots. But is there any of those 4 teams that you would love to avoid?
Oh man, I'd love to avoid anyone in the Central Division.
Yes,
I'm with you. The Jets, the Stars, the Avalanche. Are you kidding me? All 3 bolstered their lineup at the trade deadline, and all 3. I mean, Winnipeg's been a monster all year, and most of it's because of Connor Hellebuck. But the Stars with Rantanen, the Avalanche with their 3-headed monster, including Nathan McKinnon. Are you kidding me? If I can pick and choose, Vegas Golden Knights, but that ain't.
I don't want any of them. Yeah, I don't want any of them. I don't like our. Yeah, I'm not confident against any of them. Wild, they're at Seattle tomorrow night. That's a late one. That's an 8:30 start. You'll hear that game right.
8:52 puck drop.
Oh, why did you have to say that? 8:52 puck drop. Then you get a 1 o'clocker on Saturday, and then you get a 6-game stretch against playoff teams with Dallas, Vegas, Washington, the Devils twice, the Rangers. So it's going to be a tough stretch after this week of home games here.
Yeah, tomorrow night's a biggie. The Kraken, Wild are 1-0-1 against them. They lost to them way back in October in St. Paul, but hopefully they can figure it out. They need those 2 points tomorrow night.
Thanks, Kevin. Can't wait to listen to you tomorrow night.
It's going to be awesome.
All right, he's Kevin Fallness. I'm Brandon Molesky. This has been another edition of KFAN Wild Weekly. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Fan.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.